In the name of the creating, redeeming, and sustaining God. Amen. Friends, a question for you that some of you, I suspect, might relate to. Is there anywhere as depressing as a waiting room at the Royal Derby Hospital? It is without doubt one of the most unpleasant buildings it's possible to imagine. Whenever I go to the DRI, I think that somewhere there is an architect who got paid good money for designing waiting rooms with absolutely no privacy, no natural light, low ceilings, no airflow, confusing walkways, where you have to shout intimate details through plate glass at a receptionist so the entire room knows if you've had a bowel movement or not. There's one toilet shared between roughly 200 stressed patients and relatives. A dunny, I might say, that opens directly out onto the waiting room, so when you open the door, there's a bemused Asian lady sat there directly opposite once you've done your business. But there we go, just a bit of experience for me. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no mobile reception, and everywhere tellies that only play Good Morning Britain, or if you're really unlucky and have an afternoon appointment, Bargain Hunter. And always, always the creeping concern that you're going to have to remortgage your house to pay for the bloody parking if you actually manage to get a parking space before you expire through natural causes. I really hate the DRI. I have to say, one of the reasons I hate it is I was actually done for parking. I went to anoint someone in the middle of the night and I had no money on me and they still did me for not having the money, but there we go. There's something about hospital waiting rooms generally where one finds oneself truly alone and utterly powerless. So if there's one place in the world where you can't escape yourself, it's a waiting room at the DRI. And not being able to escape yourself can feel uncomfortable. Much as I try to avoid it, it's when I can't escape myself that God generally speaks to me. When the distractions of life stop working and I'm confronted with the reality of what's between my ears. Now, it's amazing how much crap in my life is caused by my inability to get what's in here out there. So much of the time, my mind is like a sort of prison where I'm held captive by my own anxiety and my own inner thoughts. I'm a rubbish priest. I'm scared about my future. Why am I so disorganized? Do I never learn? I feel very isolated. And often, those thoughts that we have in our different contexts are actually rooted in reality. I'd have to be an absolute moron as a priest in the Church of England not to be a bit worried about the future. It takes a lot of work for me to get what's in my head out. But that's true even when it's something that I really want to share, like how important people are to me, or how much I care. I find it takes a lot. Simeon, in that glorious reading today, says that Christ has come so that our inner thoughts will be revealed. Good grief, I don't want my inner thoughts revealed. I don't know about you, because he Rosemary laughing at me. That's huge. That's pretty scary. Scary knowing that actually God's grace will indeed pierce our soul. Friends, with the birth of Christ, God began a new movement in the world of getting stuff that holds us captive in here, out there, where it becomes liberation, breaking down the wall between inside and out. Now, the walls that we construct are generally built around ideas of purity. It means that when we are hurt by another person or offended, We can stay on the moral high ground and be pure because it's the other person that's cocked up and we can point the finger. They can be shamed. Now, friends, I know this is sacred stuff I'm talking about, where we have these places in our lives. But being seen in our fullness, letting the inside come out, is the opposite of purity. And it has nothing to do with shame. Purity is about keeping things contained and bottled up and nice. Purity codes crop up in every religion and in every legal system. And what they share at their core is a desire to keep things in their place, often through blame and shame and the use or misuse of power. Now, most purity codes are quite straightforward. They're to do with our bodies, basically anything to do with sex, saliva, cleanliness, or going to the loo. The other week, I was working late in my office up there, and although we'd been for a good walk, Cedric, my dog, was a bit agitated. He was kind of pacing around, and he has the run of the building when I'm working here. All the lights were off in church. Anyway, I failed to notice that Cedric had gone off for a bit, and he'd done a poo right up at the high altar. A few days later, the present Cedric had left was discovered by Maya and some of the other kids on Sunday morning at Parish Mass. Wow, it was such an amazing discovery. You'd have thought he'd done a golden poo. They were so excited because it gave permission for the kids, a bit like me today, to say the word poo in church over and over again. So a purity code was transgressed. What fun, hey? That's the problem as well. Transgressing purity codes is often quite fun as well, isn't it? Everybody here today, I'm pretty sure all of you, have probably been to the loo. If you haven't, ring the GP. Because it's normal. But we keep what belongs inside, and we don't talk about going to the loo outside. Purity codes like that are necessary and wouldn't be a big deal if they stayed that simple and harmless. But they don't. Purity codes have a way of working their way into every facet of our lives. We are, as a society, extraordinarily over-sexualized, both in how we conduct our lives, the use of pornography, all of that stuff. We are over-sexualized. And at the same time, as a society, utterly hypocritical in terms of the purity codes around sex and intimacy, and deeply unforgiving. As a society, we are passing laws to keep impure people out of little England. As we approach, at some point, a general election, it's actually seen as being a positive re-election strategy to spend vast sums of money deporting people to Rwanda. Because that's a place that, quite frankly, your average Daily Mail racist doesn't care about anyway. Treating human beings as if they are a virus. Purity codes aren't a problem in our schools and our education system until they give power to particular words. And a 9-year-old works out that calling someone a faggot will demean them and set up a power relationship. Where on earth do the kids learn that? Where do you think? From us. The good news of today's gospel is that God doesn't come to us through purity codes. God comes to us in the midst of our brokenness and our vulnerability. And that's why I hate the traditional name given to today's feast. In the Book of Common Prayer in the Anglican Church, it's still called the Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The reason the Holy Family went to the temple that day was for a ritual that Mary had to undergo to make her pure after childbirth. And I know it is a ritual that some of you also in previous generations had to go through in this church. It's about blood that's supposed to stay inside, get outside in childbirth. And it's part of, just a disgusting taboo around menstruation, which is at the heart of why women are still treated abominably in the Church of God. The overwhelming masculinity of God, the subtle masculinity of language in our hymnody and prayers that's justified by tradition, the unchallenged historical degradation of women, let alone the astonishing reality that the majority of Christendom still denies women are able to act as priests. I can't imagine why most people have given up on institutional religion. And my problem is that Mary and Jesus go through with it. If Jesus, God, came to destroy notions of purity, why didn't the angels come down and tell the temple priest there was no need for Mary to have to be purified? When the angels came to the shepherds, for goodness sake, couldn't they manage a second trip to the temple? Why didn't Mary stand up and say that a system built on the very notion of blood leaving your body is obviously going to impact on at least 50% of the population rather negatively? But today's gospel actually doesn't really have anything to do with that ritual. Sure, it says they went through with it, but it's a footnote. The stars of the story are these two, Simeon and Anna. When they see Jesus, the usual routine is interrupted. They have been waiting their whole lives for the Messiah. They were probably on welcome duty at the door, like Tom and Sandra were with Cora today. But when this snotty-nosed baby enters the purity of the temple, everything changes. They have an epiphany. They see afresh. Maybe God's more like that baby than our rules that ensure we keep what's in our heads, entrapping us. And Simeon doesn't say that salvation has come only if you believe correctly, or only if you haven't cocked up, or more like it, haven't been caught cocking up, which is actually what it's about, isn't it? Simeon doesn't say salvation comes only if you're married properly, or aren't gay, or only if you identify with your birth gender, or only if you have proper biblical values, whatever they are. Simeon says that salvation has come. He also says this crazy thing about Jesus being the one who will reveal our hidden thoughts. Now, I absolutely don't think it's about washing our laundry in public, but I think it's about doing the work to have self-knowledge, to know who we really are, and knowing that's okay. Even the stuff that isn't okay is okay, because we've all got stuff we need to work on, work through, accept in ourselves. We all have stuff we need to change. And more often than not, in church, it's those of us who bear grudges or are most aggrieved or who point the finger who are most trapped by what's in here. But friends, God didn't send Jesus to condemn anyone. So I'm pretty sure God doesn't send any of us to condemn anyone. We are all works in progress. Some of us in a bit of a pickle, to be fair, but nobody here, absolutely nobody here, nor any single person you have ever met in your entire life is outside the salvation Simeon proclaims. Just think about that. That's pretty amazing. Now, God, let your servant depart in peace. Your word has been fulfilled. For our eyes have seen your salvation, which you have given to all people, a light that brings light